Welcoming new residents, there are many islands that were once thriving communities but have lost their populations. Stroma, Mingaley and North Rona, to name a few. But of all the deserted settlements, the most famous must surely be St Kilda.
This year marks 90 years since the residents of St Kilda left their island forever. Now, we know a great deal about their life on St Kilda, but very little about what happened to them after they landed at this pier in Morven on the Sound of Mull. But why did they leave their homes in the first place? Hurta is the main island in the St Kilda archipelago. Humans had lived here for more than 1,000 years. But in the 20th century, a dwindling population, combined with problems of getting supplies from the mainland, meant life was increasingly difficult. The extreme winter of 1929 was the tipping point. The islanders could live here no more. In this letter to the Scottish Secretary of State in May of 1930, the residents plea to His Majesty's government to assist them in leaving the island. And you can almost hear the desperation in their voices as they explain that falling numbers and an ageing population make it impossible to stay in St Kilda for another winter. The government agreed, and a plan was made to evacuate the St Kildans to the mainland. The operation took a few days, with livestock transported first. This unique film was captured over the final days by a visiting ornithologist. This footage is truly remarkable. To actually see the last moments of a way of life that was going to change forever. On the 29th of August 1930, 28 islanders boarded HMS Harebell and left St Kilda for the last time. Their emotional journey would take around 12 hours. They landed at their destination, Loch Allen, on the Morven Peninsula at 7 o'clock in the evening.
This is the pier where the Kildans arrived, yeah, just there.
Cameron Wilson's mother, May, grew up in Loch Allen. She was one of the many locals gathered to welcome the new arrivals.
She was just a young girl, and most of the people from Morven were there just to welcome them. A good Highland welcome.
But there was a bit of a media scrum as well.
There was a media scrum which did spoil things for the St Kildians. They weren't used to people sticking cameras in their faces, asking questions.
Part of the resettlement plan included providing the evacuees with homes and work. The Forestry Commission needed labourers to boost stock in its newly acquired Funerary Forest. Many of the St Kildans had never seen a tree, but now the woodland was their workplace. Must have been a real shock though, working for a living.
Yes, it was a real shock.
Subsistence living.
Yeah, it was. They had to work here from 8 to 5 o'clock and they were paid 38 shillings per week. They found it very hard to survive on 38 shillings because they had to buy coal, they had lighting and food to buy, whereas on St Kilda, most of that stuff was free.
Back on St Kilda, the men would have climbed sheer rock faces to hunt birds and collect eggs for food. They brought their legendary skills to the steep slopes of Inniemore, planting in places where even today the trees are said to be too difficult to reach to fell. Another local legend states that the folk of St Kilda were incredibly good at forecasting, and they could predict changes in the weather based on the movements and the calls of seabirds, a language you could only learn by living years in a place with a bird population like St Kilda. The last evacuee, Rachel Gillis, passed away in 2016, aged 93. The island still plays host to visitors and tourists, but there'll be no more St Kildans.